So welcome everybody. Thank you for being here on this, for me, very hot summer evening. And I know Bill said it's very hot where he is and dare go outside. So yes, thank you for taking the time to be with us for this session that we've called an invitation to stillness with, I was joking earlier on saying we've got this unknown doctor with us who's going to chat a little bit and let us know. But I think a few things about life. He always has a few really interesting stories to tell us. So I'm looking forward to that. But joking aside, you're here to hear Dr. Bill Pettit. I've known Bill for quite a few years. I was kind of pondering just before we began. I think the first time I heard Bill speak was in London in Tikkun at the Tikkun Centre. Probably it was 2011, I believe. So 15 years ago. And I didn't know who this guy called William Bill Pettit was. And I was so impacted by his sharing on the stage. And really I was quite new to the principles then. And just was so like in awe really that there was a psychiatrist sharing the three principles and having amazing results. And and touched very much by his humility and still am, and his sense of humor, his lightheartedness. And that was quite a few years ago. And I put in a post today, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning your age, Bill, but 84
No,
years young. And nowhere in my psyche does that make sense in terms of how you present yourself and the energy that you have and the lighthearted and the humor and the childlike wonder of you. And I'm just delighted that you've decided to do this European tour. And that's why one of the reasons we're here is this is a preview for Bill to be in Spain. He'll be here where I am on the 27th and 28th of October, just before the Viva event that he's speaking at as well. And yeah, that's called Finding Stillness. And you can follow him round Europe, I think, and Ireland and England, Ireland, Sweden, Denmark. And he ends his tour here in Spain. So we're here for 75 minutes. Um, and Bill sent me a message, said, do you have any topics? And I kind of emailed him back and I said, I'm just going to stay really present and let's just be really still and let's see what emerges, because I know that Bill's always got lots to share with us. So really looking forward to seeing what comes forward today. And we will open it up for some questions along the way. So over to you, Bill.
it was nice of you not to mention that even though I was lighthearted when you met me 15 years ago, that I've kind of contracted into an angry, bitter old curmudgeon. So that was nice that you didn't even mention that. So I feel like maybe I have to act like I'm still a lighthearted. No. Uh, well, anyway, it's an honor. It's always an honor. It's been quite a journey, over these 43 years. Most of you know my story that I've been going in and out of depression for at least 20 years and had seen 6 different psychiatrists and sat in front of Mr. Banks on April Fool's Day, 1983. And within 30 minutes, I felt 250 pounds of pressure come off of my chest. And I felt hope. I just knew that the days of going in and out of clinical depression on a regular basis were ending that day because and I would have had difficulty explaining what that was about because it wasn't intellectual. So when people ask me, they say something and then they say, does that make sense? I said, I don't really care whether it makes sense because that's cognitive. What I care is, do you feel lighter? Do you feel more hopeful? Do you feel just a bit more present in your life and less in your thoughts? When Sheila emailed back to me about 15 minutes before we were going to come on, and she said, well, maybe you could just be present and share your insights. And I thought, emailed back, what a novel idea. This presence thing, I'll have to look into that. because as you often hear me say, the present moment is where they keep the gold. I sometimes am corny enough to talk about the bank robber who in the United States when I was a kid, and they asked him why he constantly kept robbing banks. And he said, because that's where they keep the money, right? Well, there's a reason why people like Eckhart Tolle and Sydney Banks and Byron Katie and each one of you in whatever country have spiritual leaders that for eons have talked about the power of being in the present moment, the power of now. And because that's where the gold is. That's where they keep the gold. When I'm talking about gold, I'm talking about that's where they keep the lightheartedness, the love, the presence, the access to wisdom beyond the intellect, ease in relationships, ease in relationships. I, just yesterday, um, yesterday I had we do a Zoom every 2 to 3 weeks with my two brothers, and actually my oldest daughter and one of my nieces. It used to be there was 3 boys and 3 girls, and it's I'm against all odds. We've lost all 3 of our sisters. Have all passed away. But the 3 brothers, um, remain. I hope I don't know it. Can you hear that sound, Sheila? Does that sound? No. Oh, that's good because wouldn't you know? Because of different things that happen with our schedule today, they're destroying my bathroom. It's the first step of renovating it. So they've got chisels and axes and they're so loud. To me, loud noise is coming from as they're destroying the bathroom every once in a while. But I hope it doesn't does. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go maybe for 20 minutes. We'll see. For an Irishman, that's not too long. I have a little plaque. I've told some of you that I have a little plaque that says, you're Irish if you have absolutely no idea how to make a long story short. And my wife indicates that it'd be foolish for me to spend any money on DNA because she knows that it's a substantial Irish in there. Um, mhm. Well, one of the things that Sheila mentioned was maybe recent insights, and I had a couple of things that came to me, and this hasn't happened to me in, oh, I don't know, maybe 20 years or so. Then a couple of times on July 10th and July 12th, I really woke up to go to the restroom in the middle of the night. But it was more than that. I had thoughts as I went to lie down. It was like I was downloading some thoughts. And both times I got up and I went to I kind of went, okay, fine. And I went in and opened up my computer and in my rapidly 25 minutes, 25 words per minute typing skills, typed out some of the things that came to me. And I will tell you beforehand, they're not anything you haven't heard before. But I don't know about you. I know Linda is reading the Second Chance, Mr. Banks's first book for I don't know how many times. And she is, because of what's happened within her, the realizations that she's reading the book and it's like a new book to her. It's like a new book. She's, that quote of not only Sid's, but so many other people, as you think, so shall you hear, so shall you see. She said, my God, I feel like it's a totally new book as I read it. I see where Jonathan is talking at one level and Mama Leela is talking at a whole a whole new level of understanding, a whole different level. And some people read that book, and from where and there's no judgment here. It's just they say, "Oh, that was a nice story, but I don't know, it didn't make sense to me or whatever." It's a powerful book, as is its sequel. But here's one of the things that here's some of the things that came to me, and I'll just say them quietly. As one falls gently into the stillness of now, the illusionary mirages of the past and future disappear from sight. Another one, the instant that love presents itself, fear vanishes into the wind. I can't take credit for any of these. If any of them touch you, that place of wisdom, place of love, that place of stillness, I can't take credit. They were gifted to me, like the metaphor of the three universal principles was gifted to Sydney Banks. He did not intellectually come up with them. He told me that repeatedly. They were gifted to him as a helper, if you will, to explain what his direct experience of the divine. And anyway, as the number three, as the spirit awakens, the ego has no choice but to sleep. Has no choice. I'm speaking in between the drilling here in the background. Understanding any system, I might have mentioned this before, but I added a couple of things were given to me to add to it. Understanding any system sufficiently, any system, gravity, immigration law, medicine, any system, electricity, understanding any system sufficiently brings four things: simplicity to apparent complexity, safety, one is unlikely to harm oneself or others with its use, efficiency, but it came to me that I added under efficiency that is benevolent and beneficent, two wonderful Latin-based words, well-wishing and well-doing, efficiency that is benevolent and beneficent, and predictability. But what came to me, surprises are rare, and when they do occur, they're bringing an opportunity for a new level of understanding. You know, most of you know the second chance he makes that incredible statement on page 7. I mean, the missing link, where Sid makes the incredible statement in italics that all human psyches are rooted in universal truth, and no person's psyche is better than any others. Only to the degree of the individual's psychological and spiritual understanding does it appear to vary. So I love the term psychospiritual education, as we all know, and I guess they don't teach Latin roots like they used to in the United States, at least, and the Greek roots. But educere means to draw out. It doesn't mean to put in. Education is, in its purest form, is to draw out that which is already present within the consciousness of the person. Psychospiritual education, in its gentle pointing to stillness, draws out the innate realization of one's divine inheritance and the awareness of and ready access to the guidance of an ever-present spiritual love-based wisdom before and beyond the intellect. By the way, I see some of you writing, well, Sheila, would it be okay if I just sent you these links that anybody that, would that be possible that they could, because that would keep you from, because we can't write and really truly listen at the same time. It's just the way it is, you know. And I've already said this before. Willie Sutton is said to respond when asked, why do you rob banks? Because that's where they keep the money. Sydney Banks and a myriad of spiritual speakers speak of the power of the stillness and the experience of now, because that's where the gold is. I hear a lot of people in the three principles say the following. They say, well, you know, I'm a human being. I'm a human being. And in a way that's true, but I love what the incredible Jesuit scientist, I can't say his name correctly, but Jean-Pierre Desjardins, he said we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. Many of you have heard the saying, huh? We are spiritual beings. At our essence, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. That's different. It's really different. And Sid used to say, you know, we're going to create viruses. Said we're going to use innocently use the power of thought, consciously or unconsciously. We're going to create viruses. Envy, fear, upset. But he says we've been given a virus detector. It's our feeling level. And virus detector is a pretty good metaphor, but even if Sid was still alive, I'd probably challenge him that I had a better metaphor than he did. You know, comparison is the thief of joy, right? I might have said it on my last talk. I saw this comedian who was very outrageous with my daughter. And he said he had a friend who's on his arm had a huge tattoo of comparison is the thief of joy. And he said he was so impressed by that that he was going to get a similar tattoo on his arm, but it was going to be bigger than his friends. Saying comparison is the thief of joy. That's supposed to be funny, but anyway, my delivery isn't too good. But I think that even a Geiger counter, a virus detector, I think having worked in with the nuclear power submariners those 3 years as chief of the psychiatry there, I got a healthy respect for nuclear leaks and the programs they had to identify a nuclear leak at its minuscule level. And I think that's what's happened to me over the years is that my Geiger counter has gotten more finely tuned. Not into my watching or monitoring my thinking, but in being aware of my feeling level. Have I lost my lightheartedness and my love? Not as a should. It's not a should. It's just the way the system works. The system is meant if you watch a small child, little babies, if you keep their pants half empty and their tummies half full, they seem to emanate a joy that is incredibly. That's our baseline. That's our cork on the top of the water. And like a cork, we can get caught up in the content of our computer thinking output, and we can pull our consciousness down, push it down. But has anybody besides me ever noticed that as soon as you let it go, your well-being comes back to the surface, much like a cork? I used to kid my children. I'd say, if I suppose there were times when this may have happened, and but I'd be really upset with them about something. I would have called them together and I said, this, okay, I'm sure none of you ever did this with your children, but had a well a come to we actually in Christianity they call it come to Jesus talk, right? And they'd say, okay, kids, listen, I'm fed up with you not helping your mother. I'm fed up with you leaving stuff on the floor. And I'd be in the midst of this mini tirade, and the phone would ring, and I'd go pick it up, and it'd be a friend of mine from medical school. Tom, oh, how are you? Oh, great, you're in town. Maybe we can. Now, wait a minute. I thought I was in an upset state of mind, right? But if there's something that's more important to me than my thinking, I can let it go. So I hang up and I go back to my children and I say, I was upset about something, but I can't remember what it was. What was it? And they'd all scratch their head and they say, Dad, I don't remember either. But boy, believe us, we'll let you know as soon as we remember. That's supposed to be funny too, but I'm not doing too well today. That's why I'm not going to quit my day job. So we have been given an internal Geiger counter, which when finely tuned, loudly declares the loss of love and lightheartedness and summons us to abstain from further attention to our personal thoughts until we have naturally returned home, like a cork easily returning to the surface of the water once it is released from the force that pulled it beneath the surface. One of my daughter has a little 5-year-old boy who is prone to having I don't know, temper tantrums you call it. And sometimes she just has to hold him to keep him from hurting himself or other people or destroying things. And then she lets go as she has to. But I this is true. When one has lost the feeling of love and understanding, one's impairment in functioning is significant. And keeping one's mouth shut and one hands and feet to oneself will limit the mess created and the cleanup required when one returns home to the peace of presence. I'm sure none of you have done things when you were upset that required a little bit of cleaning up afterwards, but I did hundreds, right? Hundreds. So I'm not even going to go to July 12th, but maybe we'll have time later. But I am going to, in the last 4 minutes, that what came to me, and I don't know that I'm going to broadcast it generally. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? But I came to me these 2-day programs that we're going to be doing. And by the way, we have two wonderful creative photographer, cinematographers, documentary who people live Burnett and Karina Loweth, who are going or have put up a crowdfund because they feel that maybe this, and this isn't about me, but this journey, if it could be recorded and put into a documentary, that someday it could be on Netflix, it could be on Amazon Prime, it could be somewhere, and it wouldn't be just about me talking, it'd be about talking to people like yourselves that are going to be accompanying these programs, and what it's meant to you in your life, how it's altered your life and moved you in a whole new direction of incremental insight. And so I just encourage you to maybe look at the crowdfund thing that they're asking, because they're not trying to make a lot of money. They're trying to cover their expenses so they can follow me as much as possible during the 10 and 11 or 11 in actual programs that I'm going to be doing. So, but here's what came to me. If you think of a 2-day program, I think dividing it up into mornings and afternoons. And when Sheila asked, "What's your latest insight?" What came to me a night or two ago was the first morning is going to be good. This is good, better, best, even better. I know that best is supposed to be the end, but so good is truly getting a glimpse and incrementally seeing that the truth is that we as human beings are creating our experience from the inside out, one thought at a time, conscious or unconscious. And we can talk about that. I'll be glad to answer questions. I see I'm going to go a minute or two over, which 2 minutes over for an Irishman is pretty damn good. So anyway, um, so if so, that morning is going to be dedicated to what I'm going to say is good. Now, that we see that we are the creating of my experience. The only person or thing that can take away Bill Pettit's love and lightheartedness is his use of the power of thought. I know that. I know that. Now, does that mean that I never do that? Or does that mean that if somebody walked in while we were talking and said one of your daughters has just been killed in a head-on crash, I'd have to go to my knees, because even though that might happen to 20,000 people in the world today, it's not supposed to happen to Bill Pettit. But I know that I'm the only one that can create that. And so better would be Monday, the afternoon of the first day, because that's what's going to be vital if something like that would happen, is that I know that within my consciousness there is a spiritual wisdom, a love-based spiritual wisdom that is available, and it not only available, that is attempting to guide me every moment of my life. My lemon tree is guided by that same spiritual wisdom. The animals, the dogs, the cats, even the coyotes that come through the neighborhood at night sometimes, they're guided to it. But as a human being, I'm guided to it also. But unlike the coyote and my lemon tree, I can override it with my own personal thinking. Or I can create static so that I have trouble hearing it. But good better is not only seeing, which I've seen a lot of young practitioners of the three principles that even espouse that that's 98% of Mr. Banks's message. And I'm here to tell you that it's not, after 26 years and hundreds of hours of speaking with him when he was alive. That second thing is better, that we start to realize not only that we're creating our experience, but when tragedy occurs, we know that we will be given a spiritual guidance to go through it, and we'll be given everything we need to come back home. And that there's something in the experience that is vital to us getting a greater understanding that we are spiritual beings. This is not our primary home. It's not our first home. It's our second home. And that we will be passing through the veil and going back home. Second day, good, better, best. Best is the realization that the person the being, if you will, who's creating that experience, creating my experience, and that which is the source of that spiritual wisdom within my consciousness, that those two are the same thing in a different disguise. And I am that. I don't know how many times, even in his writing and in his speech, Mr. Banks said what he saw was, I am what I seek. I am a little divine entity, a manifestation of what people call God in form. Everything is, and nothing can be separate from the whole. It's not a dogma. You're not an infidel if you don't believe that. But I will tell you, if you see that or realize even a glimpse of that, it changes your life. The afternoon, what could be better than the best, is to realize that that which I've just described, its nature is pure love. And I am that. There are those that say the only thing that's real now is the only thing that exists. Love is the only thing that's real. Everything else is made up. I tend to I've realized more and more that that's true. So makes life very simple. What would love do? What would love do? Now, is that saying that that's all Bill Pettit ever does? No, I didn't say that. But I know that's where the gold is. I know in stillness, that's what naturally comes to me. What would love do? It makes what appears complex really, really, really simple. So I went 4 minutes over. Like a good Irishman, I'll apologize for going over and take some questions.
So if you would like to ask a question, you can find raise your hand in the react button, you'll find that. There is a question in the chat at the moment, so I'll ask you that one. I'll see if people want to ask you anything. Any advice to help cultivate that hope, knowing that you were just speaking about?
I want to answer the question, but I want to make sure that I understand the question. I wonder if that person would allow me. I mean, what's the question? I'm not sure what the question is.
So you were speaking about hope and knowing, and I think it was the third piece that you was talking about. So somebody's asking if you can help how to cultivate knowing.
How to cultivate knowing.
And if the person wants to come out and ask Bill themselves to clarify
Yeah,
that
does
question.
anybody want to say anything more about that? I mean, I can answer,
I'm the one who asked it.
yeah.
Um,
Maybe you can give me first of all, if you feel comfortable, share me where you are in the world, and then a little bit about your exposure to this metaphor of the three universal principles, how long it's been, and what your
okay,
exposure has been. That would help me a little bit. Yeah.
sure. I'm in New Jersey,
Okay.
and I've discovered the three principles through I've dealt with lifelong anxiety, and I have spells where it lasts for weeks, and it's pretty debilitating, and I might cry talking about it. Um, and I just felt lost after dealing with psychiatrists, therapists, all different modalities, reading all the books, doing all the things. And somehow in my discovery, I came across the three Ps. I worked with Sari Taylor for a little bit. So I
She's
want
a
to say
beautiful
about 3 or 4 years, I've been involved in this conversation. And I know a lot of my anxiety does the talking and the thinking for me, but I do have a difficult time sort of believing or cultivating the hope of the trust in the idea of universal wellness, and that something will always guide me no matter what happens.
And so what reading or viewing or has besides Sari, who's just an incredibly wonderful woman. In fact, I'm going to be doing a program in Wales with her. Um, what have you read? What have you watched?
I've watched all of Sid's, was it the Long Beach talks? Um, I currently work every once in a while, I'll do a Zoom meeting with Dick and Bettinger. Um, I've read his recent book twice. Um, and that's really it. When I worked with Sarah, it was sort of a deep dive. You spoke a few times to her group, and it was sort of a deep dive into it, but that's really it.
Okay. And have you read many of Mr. Banks's works? And some people reading is not easy. I mean, but have you read
I have
much?
no.
And is there a reason? Help me understand that. Yeah.
There's not. It's sort of on my to-do list to do, but
Mm,
I feel like the one-on-one, I feel like maybe I would just get more out of one-on-one where someone actually understands exactly what I'm going through so I can explain it in detail.
mm. See, they might understand more clearly the problem, but what you're looking for is someone who knows the solution,
Mhm.
not right?
Right.
I mean, the personal mind is the creator of all misery, right? Is the
Yeah.
creator, is it where they are. So, and I'm always curious. It may sound, but when I think if I was a young physicist and I wanted to learn about relativity, I think I would read Einstein's three 1905 papers till I was blue in the face before I ever talked to anybody or even in entertain a second, third, or fourth generation person.
Right.
Do you
Yeah,
see what I'm saying?
I do.
So, so I'm going to encourage you now. I want to acknowledge you watched the Long Beach lectures. Did you watch them once or twice?
A few times, at least three
Okay,
times.
okay. So I want to acknowledge that you really gave that a whirl. I would I would encourage you to get. Are you familiar with the missing link?
Yes.
And you know that that it's mostly space. It's not it's the only of his six books that is not a novelette. Did you know that?
I did
Did you
not
know
know
that
that.
the other five are all novelettes? They're not in prose. I mean,
Okay.
they're in prose, but they're novelettes. They teach through a story.
Right.
And some people find that easier, that they're reading a story and they identify with the people in it. And so of his six books, there's the missing. Well, the first one was Second Chance, and its sequel is called In Quest of the Pearl. Okay,
Okay.
and they're powerful. I mean, they're worth a couple of reads, right? And then there's the Enlightened Gardener and the Enlightened Gardener Revisited, which are speaks to four psychologists. And then there's one goes to this conference and meets the gardener. And to me, as I read those, that's what my program is going to be based on. I was reading the Enlightened Gardener and the Enlightened Gardener Revisited for a course that I was doing. It was the 17th time that I've used the Enlightened Gardener as a course,
Oh, wow.
and 17th time. And my 15th time that I was reading it, I feel that I was reading The Enlightened Gardener. And as I read The Enlightened Gardener, I can tell you, I feel like I'm sitting there with Sydney Banks over the 26 years that he was and there was Keith Blevins and Dickon Bettinger and George Pransky and Sandy Crowd and Rita Shuford and a lot of those people that are going to be at the Pioneers thing. And Sid would put his head in his hands when we'd ask a question. He'd say, you take a few breaths, and then he'd say, I thought I just answered that 5 minutes ago. Let me try again. Okay.
Mhm.
But as I was reading this the 16th time, I saw something in the right hand corner. Do you see it?
A note to the reader.
Yeah, yeah. That was the 16th time I had read this book.
Right.
So slowing down to the speed of life has and still is a learning place for me. Do you hear that? This was about 4 years ago or 5 years ago that I slowed down enough that I said a note to the reader. Shit, I guess that's talking to me. I wonder what it says. So here's what I read. In this simple book, the author endeavors to explain in his own unique way the connection between our spiritual nature and our psychological nature. I'm going to ask him to speak, the man to speak a little. Um, so this book is about the, uh, and I think life is about understanding that our spiritual nature and our that we've been gifted these three gifts that are divine gifts of creation. We've been gifted to a mind, the power of thought, and the power of consciousness. And somebody asked me in 2000 or so, and I didn't know the end. They said, "Why don't you think that? Why don't you say this is a theory?" And my friend Judy Sedgman, who had been my student, became my teacher at that moment because when I couldn't answer that question, she said quietly, she said, "Well, think about it. You can't create a theory without having a mind,
Mhm.
being conscious, and having the power of thought. There is no theory that has ever been espoused that wasn't a manifestation of people using mind, thought, and consciousness." Do you see that?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to suggest, have you seen where I suggest to you that um, anxiety is a gift to you?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. And is that still feel foreign to you that that could be a gift?
Not so much as it used to feel.
Okay.
My understanding is that it's a gift to remind me to get present.
It's to leave your frickin' thinking alone until you feel better and get present as best as you can without judgment of how you're doing. You know, it's like, have you heard me say, use the metaphor of the rumble strips on the side of the road?
No, I haven't heard that.
Well, do you know what I mean by rumble strips?
Yes.
Well, if you start to, even people that have panic attacks, and I've probably, it sounds like you maybe have had them occasionally. Is that true? Correct? Yeah.
Mhm.
And they're meant to last about 4.5 minutes. Did you know
Right.
that?
I did because of you.
Yeah, because sometimes people have them for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. I
Yeah.
had one client that was really grateful when they went from 5 hours down to 2.5. And I'm,
Right.
yeah, okay. But if you're driving along and you start to fall asleep at the wheel and you start to go off into the ditch where you might flip over and get killed and your who's riding with you killed, and you hit the rumble strip, it does what?
It wakes you back up.
It wakes you up. So
Mhm.
is the rumble strip your enemy or your friend?
Your friend.
It's your friend. Same way with the panic attack. You can't get to where you're having a panic attack without ignoring a whole lot of alarms before that.
Right. Right.
So divine mind trying to keep you alive, but not taking away our freedom of thought and it keeps increasing the alarm, trying to get our attention.
Right.
And if we don't understand the system, we go, "Oh, here I am feeling shitty, and now I'm having panic attacks." Right? We just add it as one more thing rather than thinking what a beautiful gift it is that is trying to summon me to do the best I can. Somebody asked earlier, can you define stillness? It's just being present. I'm either when I'm folding my clothes from the dryer, when I'm folding them, I'm either folding my clothes or I'm thinking about something while I'm folding my clothes. And I
Yes.
found that I do much better by just folding my clothes and being present when I'm folding my clothes. And when I'm doing something else, I'm present. I got in trouble in 2007 because I was with 98, and if there's any Orthodox Jewish people on the call here, I don't mean to offend you, but over 50 of them were rabbis. I was with 98, and it was the third day of a 3-day program, and the rabbi who's in charge, his wife said, "You've been talking about presence. Would you define it?" And my filter wasn't working too well. And I said, well, it's kind of like pornography. It's really hard to define, but you know it when you see it. Well, a lot of people thought that was really funny, but a lot of people were horrified. And they, turn off they wanted to turn off the camera. I'm sorry, the horses have left the barn, right? but it is hard. Stillness is just being present. It's really simple. It's just showing up for your life at the same time it's going on. My late wife, who I was married to for 31 years until she died, she was a wonderful person. In 2000, and she in 1985 said, this metaphor of the three principles, it's pointing to something. It's very sacred, but it's also, in a practical way, it's pointing to the fact that every human being on earth is one of two places their entire life. Have you heard that before?
No.
What do you think the two places are?
In your thoughts or in your
In your
life?
thoughts or in your life? Bingo. And I'll
Mhm.
tell you do you have any idea in your experience where the gold is?
Oh, in my life.
Yeah. And we either, as soon as people say, how do I drop my thoughts? How do I I can't drop them. Listen, we're dropping them all the time. If
Right.
if being present becomes more important than whatever thought you're holding on to, you'll get present.
Yeah, I've seen that many, many
You've seen
times in
that?
my life.
Yeah. And I apologize. This is a long-winded answer, but I can't help but think of that. Have you heard me tell the story about Arnold Beiser, who was he was a doctor who was paralyzed from the neck down?
I haven't.
And after 5 years I'll make this quick. How many people have heard this story about Dr. Beiser? Oh, most people have not. Okay. Well, Arnold Beiser, he wrote a book called Flying Without Wings. He passed away a few years ago in his late 60s. He became quadriplegic in 1952 as he was going after he'd finished his internship, and he'd been enlisted into the Korean War that the United States had entered. And he was feeling terrible, and so he was on his way to the Army hospital. He pulled into a Navy hospital. He said, I feel terrible. And he woke up quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck down for the rest of his life. After 5 years of physical therapy, he decided to go into psychiatry, and he later was a teacher at UCLA medical school in psychiatry. He was a professor of psychiatry. But while he was in his residency, he had hired, back then you could hire, he'd hired his wife would have young people come, and he was married 35 years to a wonderful lady, and they had very loving relationship. But they hired young people who would dress him, and he'd be driven to the hospital, and then they'd come out. And there was a man that had not spoken for 12 years. He was so invested in his thoughts that they were so captivating to him that he had been unable to speak for 12 years. Are you with me?
Yes.
And he would wheel Dr. Beiser around to the different wards, and he brought him on to the ward where the newly admitted patients were. And this muscular man was very psychotic and very paranoid. And as he came onto the ward with the wheelchair with Dr. Beiser in it, this man looked at Dr. Beiser, as you think, so shall you see. He saw the devil coming after him. So he took a preemptive strike and he grabbed Dr. Beiser, who was quadriplegic, totally unable to defend himself. He grabbed him and he threw him onto the floor. Are you with me?
Yep.
Now, this man who had not spoken in 12 years, Mr. Banks and I would say he's perfectly mentally healthy still. He just doesn't know it. That place of spiritual wisdom is still there. He's just covered it over by his personal thinking. Suddenly, seeing a helpless human being thrown onto the floor was too much for him. And for the first time in 12 years, he spoke and said, "Stop it. Can't you see that he's crippled?" Wow.
Mhm.
Could you or any of us said anything wiser? I don't think so. Now, I love the Hebrew saying, what's spoken directly from the heart reaches the heart. Would you say that was spoken directly from the heart of that man who was wheeling? And
Absolutely.
guess what? In his midst of his florid psychosis, with dopamine raging through his limbic system, that man, that was spoken from such a place that it hit that same place of wisdom inside of him. And Dr. Beiser describes how this man picked him up lovingly. He was so strong, put him back into the chair, and then meticulously refixed all of his clothes so that they were neat while he was apologizing profusely for having put him on the floor. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Right?
Yeah.
Wow. If there's hope for them, Ashley, there's hope for you. There's hope for me. And if somebody would have been there at that moment that understood what had just happened, both of those people might have come out of there, as I've seen a number of people in my 43 years in witnessing miracles, instantly they might have come out into their well-being and stayed there. But there was nobody there to assist them at that moment. I
Mm.
hope that's a long-winded answer, but I hope, I suspect it probably responded to some other people's. Can I have a couple of nods that it was helpful? Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being courageous enough to share what you were with. You're going in the right direction, Ashley. I would encourage you to read Mr. Banks's books. I'm going to be cremated, but if I had a gravestone, it probably would be, he said, read Mr. Banks's books.
I definitely will. Thank you so much again.
Okay. Okay. I'll try not to be so wordy next time, Sheila.
I don't know why you're saying that to me. I loved every minute of it. There is somebody says that they have a question about mental health and the changes over time. Not sure if that's
Sure.
the full question, but
Can
if
they
Raymond
can
wants
they
to come and
can they ask it?
come and ask it, if
I've
Raymond's
I've
still here.
answered a lot of questions that weren't the question that people were
Yeah.
asking. So I don't mean to be when I ask clarification, I just want to make sure that I'm answering the question that you're asking. Does the person feel comfortable?
Here's Raymond to ask
I,
you.
I haven't bitten anybody
Yes,
in over 3 weeks.
I am here.
Yes. Veronica, was that you?
Um, yes, that was me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Raymond William, Bill.
yes.
Oh, Raymond? Okay. Okay, Raymond,
So
yes.
I think for the most part, you most probably answered the question that I had when you were answering the previous ladies' questions. So yeah. But the initial question was, I've learned about the principles for most probably the past 3 years or so. And I've read Mr. Banks's books. I've gone through the video series. And recently, I've had a really, really bad patch. And um, I thought it was something that I was doing wrong, but when you were busy answering the previous lady, I actually recognized that even in that, I was literally just watching my thoughts unfold and not being able to unclench, if you will, just let it just be thought. So I think that was my question. I hope it made sense. And yeah.
You, Raymond, thank you so much. Let me give it a try because yeah, and see, and then I'm going to ask you if you would to see if this helps at all. Um, I have realized more and more that, and this was a recent in the last week or so. Then I'll share what it was. That first of all, I've realized incrementally over the last 43 years that I I have a brain and I have a body, but I'm not my brain and I'm not my body. There's something that is, it's interesting, it's incredibly substantial, even though it's formless. And it's animating my brain and my body, so that when I die, when my heart stops, initially my brain and my body will be the same as it has been. But there's going to be something that is now, as it falls away, is standing alone. And that's where my true identity is. And what it's allowed me to see is this brain is indeed, as Mr. Banks says in The Missing Link, the brain and the mind are two entirely different things. The brain is biological, the mind is spiritual. The brain acts like a computer. Whatever you put into it is all you get out. And then he makes the powerful statement. Important thing to realize is that universal mind and personal mind are not two minds thinking differently, but two ways of using the same mind. That all there is universal mind, and that we get to, there's only one computer, and we all get to tap into the power of that computer and create our own software. Mm-hmm. But what's in my computer is an accumulation of 84 years and 4 months of experience. And that's all been downloaded into that computer. Some stuff when I was 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old, at different levels of understanding, even as I've incrementally gone through some of those infinite doors of understanding that Mr. Banks talks about, and other people will talk about. It's a mountain with no top. There's no it. Enjoying the journey is the destination, right? So that I know that some of the information that was stored in my computer was from 40 years ago or 50 years ago, before I met Mr. Banks, where I was frankly struggling through life at a low level of understanding. But I took in a lot of things into my computer. So there's going to be times in my life when things are going to be triggered by maybe a picture on a wall or somebody who looks like somebody from 50, 60 years ago. And I'm suddenly going to have my feeling level drop. Might even have when I was talking with Ashley, as Ashley and I were meeting there, if she looked like somebody who was a good friend of mine that got killed in a motor vehicle crash when I was in high school or college, as I was talking to Ashley, I might have had a tear in my eye, and my stomach might have started growling, and my hair might have got on end. And if I would have just stayed, instead of going to my intellect to try to figure out what was happening, if I would have stayed with Ashley it might have then come to me as we were being in the moment with each other. Oh my gosh, Ashley looks just like Joanne. Oh my gosh, they could have been twin sisters almost, as I remember her. So I, I'm not frightened by any thought that might get triggered into my head. Some of you have heard me talk about the time that I came up to a stop sign in 1985, and I had the thought come to me when it suddenly changed at a very busy. How many people have heard me say that? Tell that story. Only one or two. Okay. So 1985, about 18 months after I'd met Sid, I come up to this intersection, very busy in Tampa, Florida. I was living in Bradenton. I must have had to go there for some reason. And the light changes and the thought comes to me, hit the accelerator. You could kill at least 20 people. Now, I'll tell you, at some level of consciousness earlier in my life, the first thought I would have had was, nobody in Spain is ever going to hear me tell them that Bill Pettit had a thought like that. But I don't care because it's a thought. It has no power. I got fun. I got tickled by it. I kind of talk to my brain sometimes. Anybody else ever talk to you? I go, thanks, but no thanks. I'm gonna just stay here with my brakes on. And as I just got quiet and curious, the next thought that came to me was, Bill, you're exhausted. You're not taking care of yourself. You need to get more rest. So the quality of that thought was a little bit like the rumble strip. It brought me to the present, and it then from wisdom came, Bill, you're not getting enough rest. I know when I toured Scandinavia back 4 years ago, when I talked about rested well-being, which was my newest insight at that time, that it was important to have rested well-being. Every place I mentioned that, I saw a few, 4 or 5 people's tears trickle down their cheeks, even though they'd been involved in the principles for 3 to 6, 9 years. The idea that it was important to take care of themselves. We can only share what we have. That's not just in money. I don't have judgments on wealth anymore either. I don't have it, but I don't have judgments on wealth because some of the wealthiest people I know are some of the most generous and kind people to others because they have the resources. Now, if I hadn't understood that when that thought came to me, here's where I might well have gone. Oh my gosh, what a thought. Oh my God. Oh, I'm not a killer. I'm not a killer. And then the thought would say, do you remember when you were 8 years old and you threw a croquet mallet at Dougie Kreiner? What if you would have hit him in the right place in the back of the head? You'd have an involuntary manslaughter against you at 8 years of age. Remember when you were in medical school and you got so mad at your girlfriend that you slammed your fist into a wall and broke a bone in your forearm? There's something wrong with you. You're broken. In fact, you may be a killer. Maybe, Bill, you might be a killer. And they could have found me curled up in a ball by the side of the road, mumbling incoherently, I'm not a killer, not a killer, as they carted me off to the local Tampa emergency room to see a psychiatrist. In my 43 years in psychiatry, I have never seen a person with a severe either outpatient or inpatient psychiatric illness because of one thought they had. It was from the 50 to 100,000 thoughts they had about one thought that they had. Does this resonate for anybody? I'm sure none of you have ever done that with your thinking, but I did many times. I'll stop while I'm behind. We have another question. Raymond, I hope, is that helpful? I hope that was helpful. Veronica, did you want to ask your question?
Yes, hello. And I just wanted to start with gratitude and open heart, mind, and spirit for the gift of your presence is not greater gift that we can give to one another. So on that note, I just wanted to tie it
Wait,
up.
Veronica, can you tell me where you are in the world?
I'm originally from Argentina, but I've been living for 35 years in Canada in the middle of a forest in nature, which is very much the seat of my soul. And yeah, I do have a background
In Canada, did you say Canada?
In Canada,
But
Ontario.
you're from Argentina.
Originally, I'm from Argentina,
Yeah,
and I'm convinced
okay.
the spirit world brought me here to bring, to get us out of being victims of success and excess and all the things that are depriving us for us being human beings. But on that note, what really resonated that you just mentioned is this rested well-being,
Yeah,
and the fact that for some of us, we may, from experiences of life, or maybe because we search those experiences, in my case, living in an ashram 35 years when I did my yoga training and just transforming my life into staying in that conscious, mindful, consistent meditational state of letting life flow through me as I am, letting it go. So no problem there. And that constant awareness that my identity radicates and is there, not in my mind, not in my body or my emotions. My issue right now, as never before, is that I feel a deep calling where I'm not comfortable just sitting in the peace of my nature, my forest, writing, manifesting creation that comes from that place without the doing. And the doing in alignment with that state of magnificent being is causing me distortion because I feel that I'm selfish. I'm just gonna sit like a flower in a garden and radiate it without trying to put myself on there and see how can I serve. And that is creating noise because I'm trying to differentiate. Maybe this is too, I don't know if it's relevant, but getting the I of the question. Why do I have to help? What is it, and the discernment of why that need, because it seems to come from a place deep within me. And when I interact with humanity, the feedback is that something transforms. But there is a part of me that is like, no, 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 let me stay comfortable in my forest, in my seat of my soul, doing what I love to do and not distorting that peace. But I'm not at peace not doing anything. And so the question is the following: how do I align having realized the state of being with the doing? Because we are human beings, we're not human doings, and I think I'm getting myself in a bit of trouble, and and what has got me out of just being comfortable in the being is trying to do something to serve the planet, to serve humanity, to serve others, and yeah.
yeah. No, so let me let me let me kind of see if I hear your question,
Yeah,
Veronica.
I'm sorry. I just want to add one more thing because the whole
Yeah,
purpose was to connect it with the importance of the rested well-being. And the voice behind the voice is telling me, okay, you're giving, doing at the expense of eroding my well-being because all that service has to come out of my presence and my self-care. Like it gets to the point that I don't sleep. I work in a volunteer in a crisis suicide line. I try to help. I try to give some and it's too much because I'm gonna not take care of myself. So, how important is like you're bringing to mind the rested well-being because one doesn't
mm,
mean the other. So that,
yeah,
yeah, um, yeah, harmony.
yeah. Here's what comes to mind. Mr. Banks, in the 26 years that I was mentored by him, he would say, it it is fine for it is wonderful that you desire to see more, to have more understanding, right? And I hear that for you, that you've been on a journey for years, it sounds like, of understanding and incremental insights.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're wanting to even have more, to see more. And it's related to this how can I be in this state of being and still do and contribute in the world of form? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So he made the point, which I not just because, and as he says in his videos, have you watched Mr. Banks?
I actually haven't. No.
Okay. I'm going to encourage you to really watch his videos. People mentioned the Long Beach lectures. Those were made 27 years after his experience in August of 1973. And for 27 years, he refused to have any videotapes of him shown to the public. Because, why? Because he said, I do not want followers. I will talk to educators. I will talk to physicians. He was a consultant to the U.S. Navy. He was a consultant to Johns Hopkins. He had a ninth grade education. I had 25 and a half years. He was my teacher for 26 years. So I would encourage you to watch. I would encourage you to read all 6 of his books. I really would. Despite all the other spiritual teachers that you've had, I would say that I think there's a chance that you'll say, wow, this is a missing piece. A lot of people thought this is the missing piece. So, but Mr. Banks would say, it's fine to want to see more. That's a beautiful thing. But if you then try to see more with your intellect, you're going to take yourself away from what you have
Yes.
already. Right? Does that resonate? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So here's what his advice was. And it's just worked well for me, and it worked well for a lot of people. He said, in wanting to see more, you can't see more from where you're not seeing. It's like if you're on an outside elevator of a 60-floor hotel, you can't see what you can see from the 20th floor if you're on the 12th floor. You just
Yeah.
can't.
No.
But he would say, metaphorically, if you find gratitude, and this is not, Bill Pettit says, make gratitude lists. No, direction is the key, right? Not speed. That's the other thing that I want to. If I'm here in Phoenix and I want to get to Alaska, I'll be much better going 8 miles an hour north than 85 miles an hour in any other direction. Are you with me? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Its direction is the key. Then the second thing he said, if you can find gratitude for what you have seen and what you do have, that feeling of gratitude will carry you forward to see more only 100% of the time. Not anymore, just only 100% of the time. And I don't
Absolutely.
know that he said this or whether I just saw it in my mind somewhere, that when I try to see more with my intellect, it's like I've driven a nail, a large nail through my shoe, not through my foot, but through my shoe, so that any effort I extend from intellectual, I'll just be going in a circle. And it sounds like you feel like you've been going in a bit of a circle.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, because I engage
Thank
my
you.
intellect in the servant. Thank you so much. Very useful. Thank you. I will
You,
look at all those
thank you
books.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah, but yeah, his books, I think you'll find them. They're just I spoke to a man named Shadrick Mazaza, he teaches at the medical school in Cape Town, educated at King's College, where he got his medical degree. He teaches both at the medical school and the business school. And he had studied spirituality for 20 years before he found Mr. Banks. And so in a way, he said it brought a new level of clarity and a new level of simplicity to what I already knew. So, and I think that's what's going to happen for you.
Thank you so
Please.
much.
I
Gratitude.
am fine
Yes.
with responding to Sarah if you are, Sheila.
I am, Bill. I can stay for a little bit longer, but I just wanted
Okay.
to say I'm going to share
Good.
the link for our page for the 2-day program. I'm going to share that in the
Okay.
chat now. So I'm just really, if you're interested to have more time with Bill, and you would like to come to Spain, as I say, he's in lots of places in Europe, but if you would like to come to Spain, we have him here on the 27th and the 28th of October. Yeah, just being in the presence with Bill, I hope you have had a taste of that this evening, this morning, wherever you happen to be in the world. It just it's something very, very special, and as you can hear, he is a forever student of the three principles, and I think that's so important, the humility and the forever looking in this direction. So yeah, we'd love to have you. Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Sheila, would you feel comfortable also sharing Karina and Liv's
They have shared it
link?
already in the chat.
Link?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Good
Okay,
evening,
okay.
Bill. How are you?
Hi, Sarah.
I'm in the UK.
Sarah. Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Well, as you can see, I've currently got no hair, because I'm
Yeah,
having
yeah.
chemotherapy.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, but I've been doing some work with the gorgeous Sari Taylor as well. So
Oh my gosh.
it's my mentor and
She is
wonderful
gorgeous.
experience.
She's a gorgeous soul and a gorgeous human being. Yeah.
And I will be with you in September. But
Oh, wonderful.
one of the things I just wanted to, and I'm going to keep this really short, is
Sure.
because the thing I want to reflect on is the simplicity of everything you've said this evening to me is just spoken about simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think back to when you said about the child with the half full nappy and the half full belly, is if we actually really feel that moment,
Right.
then we've got it in my head. And I don't know if you feel the same way. And that was my question.
Yeah. But it's not in the head so much, is it? It's in the heart.
Yes.
It's a feeling. It's a feeling of, and even if we have that feeling only 2% of the time, when I lectured or presented on a dual diagnosis unit at West Virginia University, and this man on the alcohol unit, he said that he felt peace of mind about the first 2 minutes of every day. And I said to him, I don't give advice very often, but I'm going to give you advice that you can override with your wisdom. But I would make all major decisions in your life the first 2 minutes of your life. Because my IQ, when I'm not in a place of peace, my IQ drops. If I get upset, I've never met anybody that was smart when they were upset. My IQ drops to about -8. So now he was there long enough that 2 minutes became 17 minutes, became 35 minutes, became an hour and a half. Direction is the key. So I would just encourage you to be grateful for those brief moments of peace. And I think Sari will point you in the same, and probably is in the same direction. That gratitude for those few moments, rather than why can't I have more than I'm having, or Sari seems to have learned this much quicker. I mean, I'm not making that on you, but those are the kind of thoughts that my brain would spit out, and then I'd have to thank it for sharing its comments. And so yeah, I'm just with you. I think yeah, it's a feeling, and having gratitude for that feeling increases that
But for
occurrence.
me, it's just the simplicity and keep
Yeah,
it simple. I think the
yeah,
more complex we make it, the more we're overthinking it.
right. I totally agree. And to add on that rested well-being, we do the best we can, but if I move 10% away from rested well-being, my experience is that life is 35 to 45% harder.
Yeah.
So the degree of impairment in my ability to be the way I want to be in life, just the simplicity of not anything that's going to take me away from rested well-being is not worth the price. Simple. So
Thank
now there are times, I'm not saying that there aren't times a new mother, we do the best we can and we get support, but you do that. There's no shoulds here. It's not good to should on yourself. Please don't.
No, I mean, I said something today to a friend about there are times with this cancer diagnosis that I have wanted to kill my husband and he has wanted to kill me, but doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah, those are thoughts, passing thoughts.
Exactly.
If you watch enough, how many people have ever watched the Closer on television, 2007 to 2012? No, it's a lady, but everybody that kills somebody always had a reason at the time they did it that made it seemed reasonable to them. You know. Anyway, we'll stop while we're behind here.
Thank
It's
you.
been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for being with us, for taking the time out, and I just hope that this has been a few moments or a few minutes of finding your own stillness. Really, I've just loved being here and enjoyed your stories, Bill, as always. Your sharings, your insights, and your sense of humor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate all of you and look forward to seeing you, I hope, in Spain. And if not, somewhere along the way, we'll bump into each other again. Take care, everybody. Have a lovely rest of the day,
Bye-bye.
evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Is there anything that you wanted to stay on for,
I don't think so, Bill. Thanks. We can.
Okay. Well, I'm glad your arm is getting better, and
Thank you.
we'll be in touch. Feel free to contact